I'm Jeff Smith, and I want to talk with you today about my favorite subject, kitchens and food. But first, the usual bit of history. That's what we always do. This is the oldest piece of cooking equipment that I have in my kitchen. This goes back 250,000 years to, this is really the stick, to Peking man. He roasted meat over a fire. He was the first one to begin using cooking equipment. Since that time, we've become a little more sophisticated, though we've passed through strange periods. This is an original food processor. It comes from Italy. You can still buy these, and you just pound everything to death. The best place, I think, to see the history of the American kitchen is indeed Colonial Williamsburg, where they have wonderful equipment, and it's all legit. These women are cooking over primitive stuff since colonial time. That's a frying pan with feet on it. It's called a spider. She cooks right in the middle of the fireplace over a trivet. You put a kettle of water on top of a trivet, you see, and the coals are underneath. We have no stove elements here, and she has to lean over all the time. Oh, it was tiring. And this is a Dutch oven. This one, I think, is really clever. I didn't understand that this would actually work. She has a fire underneath it. You see, it has feet on it. And then she puts coals on top so that it's heated from both the top and the bottom. And she controls the temperature. That's the thermostat right there. There it is. She controls the temperature by adding coals or taking them off. And they actually bake in this. Now, this is Mount Vernon. I had a good time with General George and Martha Washington. This is her food processor. She actually used this marble one from Italy. And the fireplace was filled with several different fires. This is really the Washington's fireplace. Wonderful place at Mount Vernon. And you had several different fires going in the fireplace so you could control temperatures by moving things about. This was Martha's brick oven. She was evidently quite a baker. She had wonderful bread, and everyone was terribly fond of her sense of hospitality and her good food. This is my favorite. Look at this. George loved toast. I shouldn't call him George. This is a toaster. Put the bread in, you could turn it around, you see. Set it in front of the fireplace. I think that's fascinating. Now, Tom Jefferson's kitchen, you know, this great eater, is filled with fascinating early American cooking pieces. This, of course, is a cabbage slicer. Mr. Jefferson was very, very fond of vegetables. That is actually his scale. He really used that. Though I understand he didn't hang around the kitchen much, but nevertheless, he had several people who would work there using equipment like this. Enormous mortar and pestle, my Lord, it must have been hard to operate. And this is an original apple peeler. The apple would go on one end and you peeled it with a paring knife while you spun it along. This one I bet you cannot guess. Let me see. Can you guess? Can you guess what this is? It's for making 36 candles at once by the old dip method. Isn't that fun? Beautiful fireplace. Monticello is just lovely. An old sausage stuffer. We're talking work here, gang. We're talking serious work. And one of the things that Mr. Jefferson brought to the New World was a waffle iron that he picked up in Belgium, I think. This is not exactly the same one, but it's certainly to be attributed to the good Mr. Jefferson, the gentleman from Monticello who so loved food. Here's an old sieve that was in his kitchen. Can you imagine using something like this? It was a very interesting kind of automatic device, but you needed a different gadget for every single job in the kitchen. And finally, I found an old lemon squeezer. You remember, I've talked about lemon juicers for you all the time, but this one, of course, works by the old squeeze method. The history of the kitchen for us is most interesting, but a great change came about during the Second World War. You know why? Well, we had built kitchens for one person. She was called Mama, and we were expected to stay out of the kitchen. She was all by herself, and she had to do everything. During the Second World War, she moved off to a job at the Boeing Airplane Company making planes for the war effort, you see. And thus, we all had to begin investigating that kitchen. And you know what we decided? You can't put 3 people in that kitchen. We'll trip and kill each other. Look at the plan we were using. You see, this was called the old triangular pattern. I'm afraid that this is probably typical of your kitchen. You see, the refrigerator was in one corner, then you had the stove and the sink, and you ran between the 3 of them. I'm convinced that that triangle that of pathway in the middle that you see there is as dangerous as the Bermuda Triangle. We'd lose whole people in the place, running back and forth. It wouldn't work. The second major change that came about in our kitchen to bring us together was the invention of the TV tray. We began eating privately, and we decided that loneliness really is not a good thing. So in our time, we're back to cooking, and I'm very, very glad. That's what I do, because I love food, I love the family, I love everyone together. Now, problems. How are you going to get your kitchen to work efficiently for you? One, Set up your kitchen in terms of stations rather than a place for one person. For instance, in this kitchen, here in Chicago, we have a stove station. I have ovens in the walls. I have sinks over here. I have a sink at this end. I have cutting boards all over the place. And this is a galley kitchen, you see, so that several of us can work here together and not get in each other's way. I want you to do that for your family. You really can do it with your kitchen. This is my kitchen in Seattle. It's my test kitchen. All right, so it looks a little flamboyant, but Lord, there are 4 or 5 of us at a time working there. And we have a grand time, you see. There are lots of stations. That's the only safe way that you can cook together. The second thing I want you to be mindful of is buying good equipment. Please don't think that if you're buying inexpensive kitchen equipment that you're going to get good food out of it. That's just not going to happen. It may be a little expensive in your own mind to start with, but in the long run, it's going to be the most frugal way to shop, because eventually, you see, you'll realize that you were very wise years ago to buy good things. They'll last. Here's a piece of history. I suppose you don't think about a refrigerator as being history, but indeed it is. The refrigerator changed the life of the American cook. We're the only people in the world who have refrigerators all over the place. Look at this one. KitchenAid's even put ice and water in it. You know, when Channing and Jason first began playing with ours, they were flabbergasted over the fact that ice water is really a fun thing to have. And they've stopped drinking so much soda pop. Now, I consider that a very wise investment. A very wise investment indeed. I have an oven built into the wall. This happens to be a convection. I'll show it to you in a minute. I have a range. This one's gas. I love it. It's great fun. And it helps me relax when I'm in the kitchen, and it helps me have a good time. The other thing I want you to note is that I don't put my appliances in a garage. If you have an appliance garage, I'm sorry. I don't want things hidden away. I want to walk into the kitchen and see things and have all of my equipment say, use me, enjoy. I'm concerned about that, and I'm convinced that good design is always attractive. So, let's reorganize the kitchen. Let's reorganize our time. And for heaven's sakes, think about cooking seriously at least one day a week. We can do it with just a little planning. Now, let me show you what I mean by cooking properly one day a week. That is to say, all at once. First of all, get out a good food processor, and I want to make an herb blend. This one is interesting because it will grind herbs for me as well as just about everything else you can imagine, and it's because it isn't too big. You remember the story of Mama Bear and Daddy Bear and Baby Bear? Baby Bear's machine was too little, his little bowl, and Daddy's was too big. This is Mama size, and it's just perfect for the kind of preparation I want you to do one day a week. Now, here's an herb blend that's so easy to do, and it'll help you replace your desperate need for salt. I want to throw in a couple of teaspoons of pepper, cracked pepper. Now, I've already ground mine, you see. You can't put peppercorns in a food processor, for heaven's sakes. Now, to that, I want to add about 6 bay leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sort of, you see. Let's get some bay leaves in there. There we go. That'll do us. And then we're going to add some oregano. I want about a teaspoon of oregano. There we go. And this is whole. These are all whole herbs, you see. Now, a 1/4 teaspoon of everything else. I need some marjoram. This will really help you a lot in your kitchen. A 1/2 teaspoon of all the rest of these. Marjoram. I said 1/4, but I was lying to you. Thyme. There it is. We need some basil. There we go. And we need some savory. And if you'd like some rosemary, you can throw that in too. Look at that. The savory is not whole at all. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is simply grind this up. So we're going to have a fresh herb blend. And while that's working, I want to tell you that this machine is not going to march around on the counter for you. I had one at home that it walked away when it was supposed to be working. I don't want that. Buy good quality. I've told you that before. Okay, that's enough. We've ground up the herbs and spices. I'm going to put them in a small. Well, actually, this is a French jelly jar. Now save this for your cooking during the week. And whenever you have a gravy or something that, well, you know what I'm talking about. It just doesn't come across. It's kind of pooped out. Can I use the word? Of course I can. Well, this is what I want you to use. Keep this aside, and you can put in a nice blend. There, cap it up, and I'm going to stick it off the counter. It doesn't have to stay in the refrigerator. Don't worry about that. Not at all. And I can put that in a soup that's flat easily. Now, secondly, I suppose I should dust this out, shouldn't I? I don't want to get my herbs all over it. Second thing you want to do is grate some fresh cheese each week. I don't want you using the stuff that comes in a box, you know, that, well, it tastes like the box. You don't need that. So I'm using a blade that grates cheese. And this is a jewel, because I can, the flavor of fresh cheese is so very different than that old stuff from the market. It's just been around for generations. Who wants war surplus cheese? This is a Pecorino Romano. It's my favorite. There. Into the machine we go. I better cut off a bigger chunk here. Won't quite fit down the tube. There we are. Now, when you do this, this is a great thing to do with your kids, but you've got to help them understand. There we are. You've got to help them understand that they must be careful with machinery. But when you consider what this machine will do for you to help your week, why, it's incredible. Look at this. It's just like snow. Whiter than snow it is indeed. And I'll put this aside, and this will be ready. This should last me for several days of my cooking, right? Now, I haven't done the sacred thing for you yet, and that, of course, is garlic. I don't want you to stand around and peel garlic every day. I know that that's a pain, but please understand that if you buy that pre-chopped garlic from the market, it's full of chemicals. You don't want that. We want you to eat well. So, to refresh your memory, this is how you clean garlic. Put the head, come here, you. This is fresh garlic. Put the head on the counter and lean on it, you see? So lean on the whole, and it'll all fall apart. Then pick out a couple of, many nice cloves, and what you're going to do is hit them with a glass or the bottom of a knife. Just crack it, and the kernel will come right out of the casing. You see? It's very easy to do this. So I don't want you to stand around and say, well, I don't want to bother cleaning garlic because it's too painful. Don't give me that. It's not painful. It's very easy to do. Now, what's the advantage of our one-day-a-week cooking? I find my blade here. I have cleaned 40 cloves of garlic all at once for you. Can you believe it? Boy, now you know you're with the Frugal Gourmet, don't you? Huh? There we are, 40 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to grind that up with my regular all-purpose blade, just pulsing it a bit, you see? I don't want mush. Okay, one more, there. It is absolutely even. It is absolutely ready for every single meal that I want to use in my home with garlic, and I can put this in the refrigerator. Be careful now with this knife. This is a Sabatier blade. Please handle it like you would any good knife. That is to say, don't just throw it in a drawer and mistreat it like you do your other knives. Please, be careful with your knives. They're your closest friend. That's all a food processor is, you know, is an electric knife that's been very well educated. All right, so now I have all my garlic packed into a container here, and I'm going to put a bit of olive oil on the top of that to seal it. Here's my olive oil. And this will keep in the refrigerator for a good week, but there's no chemical in this, you see? Just seal it with a bit of olive oil. And you see, I now have about a cup of garlic. You realize this will last me for hours. It's perfect, and it's fresh, and it has no chemicals in it. All right, now, what are we going to do with some of these things? The third thing I want you to do is to prepare a mirepoix of vegetables. Very, very simple. Into your food processor, throw an onion. We want to cut the bottom off first, remember? Cut the bottom off first, and then the top. And a machine will cut onions up for you so rapidly, I just don't want to hear anything about wailing and crying. Please, I just don't have time for that anymore. I want to come home from work each night and be ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to whack up an onion and put that in our machine. That's plenty. And I also want to add, 2 or 3 stalks of celery. You don't have to do any work, just chop them up. In they go. And a couple of carrots chopped up too. There. All right. Now those are the basic 3 vegetables that we're using for a mirepoix, or literally, it means chopped up. I've got to turn my stove on. Here we go. It means chopped up vegetables. That's all there is to it. So we'll chop them up in a hurry. The French chef who uses this all the time, you see, he would stand around and do this by hand. I just want to finely dice this stuff. And the pulsing action is much easier. There, we're just about got it here. Come on. There we are. You want to pulse this rather than to grind it, because you'll get mud otherwise. All right? Enough. Now, into a hot frying pan. Almost hot. Remember the rule I told you, don't put oil in the pan until it's hot? That's just about right. We're going to add a bit of olive oil to our pan. Now this is something, again, that you're going to keep for the week. It's a seasoning agent called a mirepoix, or a blend of vegetables. We have 3 vegetables in the pan. We're going to saute these along with, of course, now you'll understand what I'm talking about. I need some garlic, right? So what do? Well, I reach in the refrigerator, haul out my garlic. Look at this, all chopped and ready. Throw it in the pan. I am set. You see? That's how I want you to cook. Relax and enjoy your food. Now, the other thing I need is a bit of the herb blend in order to make a good mirepoix. Yeah, and I'll put in a good stiff pinch of this. Saute this over high heat for, I don't know, it's going to take you 5 or 6 minutes, I suppose, until you get something that looks like this. There, I'll trade pans with you. And we're ready now to, to really enjoy our cooking, because when we come home, all of this stuff is ready, and it's in the refrigerator. And all you have to do is open it up and get started. You know, baking bread is one of the most wonderful things you could possibly do. If you have a machine that has some power to it and some stamina, you can do wonderful things with bread. Remember now, bread is one of the oldest food products we know. Look at this. I can even grind my own flour. No, I don't expect you to do this every week. I know that. But you can have a great deal of fun. Here, let me show you how this works. Here's a grain mill. There we go. A grain mill. I'm using just regular whole wheat. I think I need that a little bit finer for flour. There you are. Or if I want to make a coarse grind for a good whole wheat bread. There, you see? That's terrific. I love it. I love it. My uncle Vic, you know, my Lebanese uncle, is a great bread baker. He's had one of these machines since, good Lord, when was I? I was 7 years old. I'm 48 now. How long ago was that? Well, that's the first time I saw one. He's baked bread with it for years and years and years. I'm not going to make a whole wheat bread for you. I want to make a classic French bread. And this machine takes all of the work out of it for you. Here's what you do. We want into our bowl 2 packages of yeast. And I use one that's quick rising, that sort of thing, so that you don't have to stand around a long time. 2 1/2 cups of tepid water. And tepid means it's just barely warm. All right? Now we're going to put on our flat blade. Oops, I better turn on the bowl first. This arm will move the bowl up and down for you, and it holds everything tight so you can just do anything you want. I just love it. All right, so we have 2 1/2 cups of warm or tepid water, 2 packages of yeast, and now we're going to take out the flour. We have, and I measured this out very carefully, I'm using a scale, because if flour is fluffy, it's lighter, and if it's packed down, it's heavier. So we weigh it in order to get exactly the right amount. I want 2 pounds, 3 ounces for 2 1/2 cups of water, right? Now, I want to make a sponge. So after your yeast dissolves, add, I add 4 cups of the flour. Now this is the total amount you're using. You're using 2 pounds, 3 ounces, but I'm going to add 4 cups to start with because I want to make a sponge. And what that means is that you just whip the blazes out of the flour and the yeast and water in order to make gluten. Gluten is the gooiness. There we go. Just let that go. After about 10 minutes, the flour, well, you're not going to believe this, but it is the truth. You see how sticky and wet that looks? After 10 minutes, this will begin to pull away from the side of the bowl. I've already done one. Let me show you what happens. I've already finished one for you. I just let it beat for 10 minutes, and at the end of 10 minutes, here we go. At the end of 10 minutes, the batter will have converted to gluten. You see how sticky it is now? But watch. You see, it pulls away from the side of the bowl. You see? Now you know you have gluten. You see, it doesn't stick like that at all. Now you add to that 1 teaspoon of water and about a teaspoon of salt. A little bit of salt in this. You know, this has no oil. A good French bread has no oil or shortening in it, so it's very low in terms of fat calories, you see, and very low in salt. I use only a teaspoon. Now then, add slowly. Here, let's put on the neat thing now. Whip this up. This does all of the work, and it allows it to turn to gluten. In the old days, you had to do it by hand for 2 days or something. I'm exaggerating. Now, I'm going to transfer my blades because this machine has something that is called a dough hook. And a dough hook looks like something like old Captain Kidd used to have on his arm, you see. And it turns the dough around on itself. I'll show it to you. So we'll put the dough hook on now. I love to bake French bread. Whenever I get into a fight with Jason, you know, if I get into a fight with Patty, I'm in trouble. I have to buy flowers and all sorts of things. And Channing, of course, has other needs. But if I get into a fight with Jason, I make him a batch of French bread, and everything is healed. Now, the dough hook, you see, is going around. It's going around in two different directions. It's going this way, and it's also turning. So the dough hook is going to knead in the rest of our flour. The bag from which I took the 4 cups, you see. Just slowly let that work in. And you don't have to worry about this. You can pour a glass of sherry and watch it do all the work. It's a wonderful device. At the end of, about 10 minutes of kneading, after it works in all the rest of the flour, you see, let me show you what you have. I have one already here for us. It's wonderful to make bread in a hurry and without any pain. I allowed the bread dough, whoops, come here you, it's fighting me here. There it is, it's alive. I've let this rise once under a bowl. So I just put the bowl over the top, and then I punched it down and let it rise a second time. So now we're ready to go. We're going to cut off I've got a little water on my board here. I'm using a chunk of marble because it's very easy to deal with bread that way. I want to cut off, there we go. I want to cut off about so much dough and roll that down on a chunk of marble. There we are. And then I'm going to make an old-fashioned looking loaf. You see? There we are. Now, I'm not going to put this on an oil baking sheet. I'm going to put it on a sheet with some cornmeal on it. There. You see, what I want to have, there we go. What I want to have is an oblong looking loaf. Okay. And I need some cornmeal on the tray. Cornmeal is going to act like little ball bearings so that the bread can breathe underneath. And we'll line up. This will make about 3 loaves, the batch that I've just done. The other thing I want to tell you about is that you can make it look a little more country style if you put some flour on it. Just kind of rub it with a little bit of flour. Then when you cut it, when you make a slice in the top of the bread with a very sharp knife, this will open up as it rises, and you'll have a very interesting looking old French loaf. Now, let this rise then. This will be the 3rd rising, of course. Let this rise until the loaves are large and ready to bake, and then put it in a 450-degree oven. I know that sounds a little hot for you, but it works. And we're going to bake it for about 25 minutes or so. In my oven, I have used a pan of hot water at the bottom, just about 1 inch, you see. I want to have a little steam in it so that I get a wonderful crust, because it's the steam that makes the European bread taste so wonderful. There we are. That isn't always necessary. You get a very nice, a nice loaf in a convection oven because it's very even, but I like some steam. The other thing you might want to do, consider using whole wheat breads, all sorts of breads, and you can do the whole process just with the dough hook. But if you want to make a batter first, such as I did for French bread, then you want to use the flat blade too. There it is, bread, and it doesn't take long. Okay. Now, one of the great food products in America is hamburger. And you realize that you're paying your butcher 33% more than you should be paying for meat. Well, I know it's his gain, but it's his business. But you're buying so much fat that it's simply unhealthy. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to make your own hamburger. And if you have a good machine, then it's easy to do. Do you remember in the old days, your grandma had one of those, the pain of it all, and you stand there and crank and crank and crank and crank. There's no point in doing that anymore. So here's what you do. Buy a good chuck roast, a big one, you see, and trim it out. Get rid of all of the fat. Trim off the meat. There we go. And leave the fat for somebody else. You don't need it. Just trim out all the good meat and then save, of course. Don't throw away a thing. You know that. You know me better than that. Save the fat. See, I'm getting, there we go. Oh, that's enough here, friends. I've already cut up a whole bunch of this. Save the fat for soup stock. And no, I don't want you to eat the fat. What I'm saying is that when you make the soup stock with the bones and the fat will congeal, and after you refrigerate it, so you can get rid of that. But it does flavor the stock. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to find some very lean meat in this way. We're going to trim it ourselves. Let me show you what happens. You see all of these scraps that the butcher gets off of the meat? Do you think he throws these out? Come on. You know what happens to them? It's all ground up in a hamburger, because hamburger can be 33% fat. and still be legal. You don't need that. You don't need that. We want to get rid of salt and fat in our diet, so here's the solution. Grind your own. Now, the biggest problem is that you have to decide whether or not you want to grind it fine, you see, with a fine blade, or whether or not you want to grind it coarse. I like mine coarse. So here's the knife that goes in this device. Put in the knife first, then the plate, and we'll hook it up right now. And we can grind our own hamburger and nothing flat. And it tastes so much better if you ground your own. It's very fresh and good that way. There we go. Now, in order to do a lot of this at once, I have a tray. Isn't this a kick? You see this? Just slide it on. Isn't that wonderful? So that I can put a whole bunch of stuff in there at once. There we go. And I'm going to begin. Let's get a bowl here. And we're ready. This thing will practically do the work itself. You don't have to worry about a thing. And if need be, well, you can always use a little plunger. There we go. You see, you're getting very lean meat this way. My kids don't need a lot of fat in their diet, and they do love hamburgers. We do so many things with hamburger in our culture that it's just a shame to realize that that's our fattest meat. Did you know that? And don't pin it on beef, please. Let's be realistic. It isn't beef that we're worrying about. If you trim beef of fat, you're just fine. So please do that. All right, that's enough to get us started. Now, what am I going to do? Well, I have a couple of recipes for you. Here's a bowl. We'll grab a bit of hamburger, and I want to add to that some rice that's already been cooked. There. What have I done with the rice? Here it is. This dish goes back to colonial times, and it's a great dish for kids. Sometimes in our time it's called porcupine balls or something like that. But in the old days, this dish was called beef olives. You mix rice, cooked rice. This is cooked rice with hamburger, and a bit of salt and pepper. And you can put in any kind of herb you like. You know, a little oregano would be great, or some basil. And if the meat is too dry, don't add animal fat, add olive oil or peanut oil. Now, mix up a ball. You can add an egg if you like to hold these together. Mix up a meatball, something like this. And we have what the colonists used to call a beef olive. No, I do not have the answer. Don't even ask. I don't know why they call it an olive. I researched that for weeks. I can't figure it out. But in any case, it's very delicious. The other thing you can do is mix up your favorite batch of meatballs. I'm going to add a little pepper and some salt. What have I done with the salt? Who knows what I did with the salt? Here we are. A little salt and pepper. If you'd like an egg, that would be fine. We can throw in one egg. And if you'd like some grated cheese, you can do that. Let's do that, huh? Some cheese and some oregano. That would be delicious. I don't see any more cheese. Here we go. We can add some garlic. Do you remember? I've already told you that if you're ready, you see the garlic's already cut up. Isn't this great? You can cook like crazy when you come home. Grind your own hamburger for the kids. And let's try some oregano here. Rosemary, oregano. Mold these into balls. Mix this all up. Mold these into balls. And then we're gonna put treasures in the center. And by treasures, well, I'll show you. These are going to be meatballs with secret centers because they're fun for the kids. And here's what we can choose. You can make a meatball and there we go. Fold a big meatball in and put a hole in it with your thumb in the center here, see? And then slip in a cube of cheese. Won't that crack them up? Gee, Dad, how'd you get the cheese inside the meatball? Bake that. Or you can do one with an olive. Here's a black olive. That's fun. You see, don't tell the kids what they're going to be in the middle. Don't let them know. But it's fresh hamburger. It's very little fat. You can also use chopped bacon and mushrooms. I have 4 different kinds. Well, they're in the oven. I put mine in a convection oven. No, I didn't brown them. I didn't brown them in a frying pan. I'm trying to avoid fat. You were listening, remember? So I didn't brown them in a frying pan. I put them in a convection oven. Well, let me show you. You've got to understand what that is. A convection oven has a fan inside of it. Your own oven will work fine, but it won't cook as evenly as a convection. A convection oven has a fan inside. Well, let's see. I'll take these out and then I'll turn on the fan again. I've turned this off already, but I want you to understand what a convection does because it browns everything very evenly. The fan, there, the fan will circulate the heat and it keeps everything moist and beautiful. Now, here are the beef olives. Aren't they a riot? I'm going to put a pothole under this so we don't burn up the counter. There we are. And then I have another tray of meatballs with secret fillings. And Lord knows which one is which. There are olives, chopped bacon. What else is in there? What did I say? Olives, chopped bacon, cheese, and mushrooms. Now, the convection oven has a fan. I'll turn this on. There. You see? And that circulation keeps everything even in the oven. It's no longer possible to get a loaf of bread that's brown on one end and raw on the other. This is a marvelous thing. I just love it. All right, one more. Using, again, fresh beef. I'm going to make a steak tartare. Olive oil into a wooden bowl. A couple of anchovies. 1, 2, that's more than a couple. Well, how about 3? I always change my recipes as we go. What difference does it make? We need a little bit of Dijon mustard, a tablespoon or so. And then we need some chopped onion, chopped yellow onion, and a bit of Worcestershire. There we go. All right, so we have Worcestershire, mustard, onion. Now we need an egg, 1 raw egg. Just crack it right in there. Whoops, oh, Smith. The best laid plans, right? Doesn't matter. And we'll mash all of this up so that we can smash the bits of anchovy. If you don't like anchovy, I'm sorry, but I just love this stuff. Okay, now we'll need a bit of salt and pepper, just a smidgen. Now remember, we're putting the meat into this in a minute, so, and watch this. This is a very, very quick dinner for the summertime, and I promise you, it will give you big raves. Now, I'm going to grind up a round steak. And if you don't like steak tartare, you're going to say, what a horrible waste of a round steak. Don't be silly. Save all these pieces of bone and fat, you see, for another use. But this is a wonderful dish. Just delicious. I just love the stuff. Steak tartare. The first time I told Channing that I was going to serve him raw meat for dinner, he just looked me right straight in the eye and said he didn't believe me. Well, of course he believes me now. And in it goes. We're grinding up beautiful round steak right into the bowl. Are we talking fresh here? And you're going to have a much nicer flavor. Cut it in long strips and just run it through. Oh, I'm getting hungry already. All right. There we go. This wooden plunger keeps your fingers out of the mixer, of course. Show your children how to use this properly. And then anything in the kitchen is perfectly safe if you talk with your kids honestly about what it does, you see. I don't ever want my children to be frightened in the kitchen. Well, I've already told you some basic kitchen rules about your kids, and that's important to me. All right. Mix it in. Put in a little bed of lettuce. I have some I think the classic English word is toast points. What they are is just a little bit of toast. There. Freshly ground steak tartare. And it's wonderful, wonderful eating. I need some capers on the top of that. That's very obvious. Capers do the job. Capers are like little nasturtium seeds, but they're not of that family. They just seem to taste like it to me, though. All right, now we'll add some toast points. You know, do a nice arrangement of toast points on your platter. And bring this to the table with some celebration and arrogance, because you're serving the freshest kind of meat you can possibly get your hands on. And believe me, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy this for sure. The wonderful thing about having good equipment in your kitchen is that you know you're going to get by cooking fresh food from scratch. And I know that in the beginning, when you outfit a kitchen, you make an incredible investment. But if it's good stuff, it's going to last you for a long, long time. Point. I want to make pasta for you with a machine. And I don't want you to go out and buy a special machine. It's got to be versatile equipment. That's what we want. So I've just sifted. And I mean sift. You sift this over your measuring cups. You use a sifter to measure this precisely. Sifting means that the amount of air and the amount of flour are just right so that you know exactly what kind of volume you're getting. I want 3.5 cups of sifted flour for pasta. I'm sifting it over the cup itself. I've already got that. 3.5 cups. That will go into my mixer. Now, This is so simple that it's just crazy. Most machines can't take this. They just cannot take it. Then I want 4 eggs. Just throw it right in there. Now, isn't this complicated? And 1 tablespoon of water. Got that? 3½ cups of sifted flour, 4 whole eggs, and a tablespoon of water. Turn it on this machine is on number 2. And just let it go for about 30 seconds. Let me clean up here. And then we want to change to the dough hook, which will finish the process. So you can't do it any faster than this. Okay, there we go. Now, off with the blade. This is the old kind of thing that your Italian grandmother used to use. Oh, stop worrying about my fingers. I use them this way all the time. There. Anyhow, your grandmother used to do this all by hand. And it was wonderful. But I'm not convinced that a machine can't do this well. Just beautifully. All right. So we'll mix it again with the dough hook now for a short time while I show you the possibilities we have here. This is the regular meat grinder. And what I want to do is to add a blade that turns it into a pasta maker. In this case, it's spaghettini, or little spaghettis. Spaghetti means string in Italian, spaghetti. And we want to use a little one. And you simply put it together. So your regular grinder is in here, but there's no blade for it. We've taken that out. Put on the cap and tighten it up. There you are. Now we're ready to begin making pasta. It's that simple. And I think it's a kick. How are you doing in there? Oh, you're looking pretty well. We'll let this go for about a minute. There. Okay. So I'll put it onto my board here, and this really should mix a little bit longer, but I want you to get the idea. And besides, I know you trust me, and I trust you. Okay, and this will all just come together, you see? See what happens? See, it's all coming together right away, and it'll pick up all of this. You knead this. Oh, it'll take a minute or so to just knead this by hand, and then I want you to cover it up with a bowl or a paper towel or something. Paper towel will probably be best. We want it to dry just a tiny bit, and then we'll run it through the machine. There. Now remember, I've just come home from work, and I'm doing this in a hurry because I'm having a marvelous dinner party tonight, and I want to feed them all fresh pasta. So cover this now with a dry paper towel and let it sit for a time so that it will the moisture will go evenly through the bowl. And at the end of that time, we're going to have some pasta going here. This is so much fun. First time I did this for Channing, he went crazy. He just went crazy. It's not easy for him. You know, he's on the edge already. Okay, where's the tray here? There we are, and we're going to begin. Here's the secret to doing this. You turn the machine on very high, 10, you see, and then you break off just a bit of dough about the size of a walnut and throw it down in there. And as soon as it disappears, throw in another. The machine will slow down. Don't worry about it. We're talking a heavy solid state machine here. There are no plastic parts on this one. And pretty soon, it takes a second to get it rolling here. Come on, girl, there we are. And pretty soon we have spaghettini, you see? Thin spaghetti. And there's nothing to that, look at it. And it goes like, it picks up in speed after the tube itself fills up, you see? There we go. Now let me show you the different kinds you can make while this is working away. Here we are. Spaghettini is one. That's the thin spaghetti, you see? That's this one. There you go. And then I have a thicker spaghetti. There you are, which is made with the larger holes. And here's macaroni, which is made with the macaroni plate. And I can make lasagna with this one. Look at you, get a wide noodle. These are fresh noodles. And finally, you can make a nice wide fettuccine or egg noodle, all out of the same device. That's a riot, just a riot. Now, on this side, yes, I want to be sure my water's boiling. I'm going to change again with the same device and make a fresh tomato sauce for you. I know that some of you have never even tasted a fresh tomato sauce because it's too much work. Well, let me show you how quickly you can do this. Using the meat grinder again, adding another attachment, you can pick all of these up very easily. This is a long rotor, you see, a driver that will separate vegetables, fruits, from their pits and their peels. And you don't have to do a thing. You don't even have to peel the stuff. You can run apples through this, any kind of fruit you want that has a peel on it. Let's see, I need this piece that has a peel on it or has pits in it, you see. This is going to do all the work for us. So, I have two bowls. One at this end for the sauce, and the other at this end for the pits. Let me show you what happens. Get some tomatoes cut up here, and we'll do this in a hurry because I want to get some pasta out for you. There. All right, in they go. And just run them down there. Fresh tomatoes. We're not talking work here. This machine's going. Now the sauce is beginning to form. Can you see it in here? See, the sauce is forming in here. And out of this end comes, is this a riot? Out of this end comes the peel. No problem. This is great with all sorts of fruits. You can do this with berries, and it'll take the seeds right out of them. Marvelous fun. All right. Well, I think you can see what's going to happen here. My point is that if you love to do canning or just fresh sauce making, you can do this with all sorts of vegetables, soft vegetables. Apples and things will work too. But berries, all the seeds come out this end, all the juice goes in. You make jelly, lickety-split. Now, let me get the pot. Let me show you what I did with the sauce. I'll make enough tomato sauce to get us going here. Where's a pan? And here's a fresh tomato sauce. We need a lot more sauce than this, of course. I'm just getting started. But it's easy to do. And you make up your own recipes as you go along. For instance, we'll want to add a little bit of red wine to this, a little bit of olive oil. There we go. To give it a little nice rich flavor, you see. There's not going to be any meat in this. A little bit of salt and pepper. I think I have some pepper. That's just right. Now, for herbs, I want to add, first of all, some lily bulbs. You know what these are lily bulbs? They're onions. Yes, I know they're onions, but they are lily bulbs. And some garlic. Remember, my garlic's all ready because I cut it up ahead of time. We're talking cook in a hurry here. And I keep this in the refrigerator. Remember, that works beautifully for me. All right? Okay, now, for the herbs themselves, I want a little oregano and a little basil and perhaps some rosemary. You can do whatever you like with this. It doesn't bother me at all. Put this on to simmer until the water begins to evaporate. Well, this one's all finished. Look what I have. Very, very rich tomato sauce made of fresh tomatoes. Please. And it's easy. Now, I've already cooked the pasta, so I'm just going to heat it up very quickly here. And we can have a great celebration of fresh-made food that is not taking me a long time to prepare. I don't want you to think that that's what cooking's all about. I'm just going to dip this into the boiling water, you see. I've already cooked it ahead of time. You rinse it in cold water and then leave it set so that when your guests come, or your kids come to the table, whichever may happen first, you're all ready to go. Okay, now I need a platter. We have fresh tomato sauce. There we go. There. Can you imagine the ability to cook your own make your own pasta from scratch here, and then spread a wonderful tomato sauce on it that you've also made from scratch? In Italy, of course, this would be a first course. I guess it's a second course, isn't it? But in our house, this is murder, and we'll all sit down and gobble up pasta with a fresh tomato sauce. One more thing I need, of course. Remember, I've already grated the cheese. This is freshly grated too. And I do that once a week. Stick it in the reefer and keep it good and cold. There you go. There you are. We have pasta made from scratch in very little time. Now, aren't you pleased that you can cook things fresh from scratch? You can do it. Now, let me talk with you about why I am so terribly fond of gas. If you have electricity in your home and you're using an electric burner, that's fine. That's all right. I'm not complaining. But in the restaurant biz, and I used to run restaurants, gas is an absolute necessity because it's instantaneous heat. And you can control it. Very little heat or a great deal. And when you're browning meats, please understand, if you get your pan really good and hot first, then throw in the meat. Please do not flour the meat. You want to brown the sugar that is in the meat itself. And that's where you get caramel color, you see. This works beautifully if you have gas range. I'm going to deglaze the pan now. Fancy word for taking out the brown goodness. The little red wine. Oh, I love it. If you have a gas range, you can have so much fun with it. So much fun. I'll move this aside. I want to show you something else. I have it's going to surprise you. It really tickles me. I have some pasta, and I want to make pasta Mornay. Pasta with Mornay sauce. So I'm going to put the cheese sauce on top of my pasta. There. Now normally, well, I better remember the cheese, huh? Where's the cheese? Here we go. Normally you would put this under a broiler in your electric oven and stand around for a while until it browns. Let me show you something. This is a salamander, and look what's inside. You see? A salamander means that you have a burner that will broil for you, or you can also use it as a griddle. And a salamander is called such because it's an oven operated by fire. And in the old days, there was a medieval creature called the salamander. And he looked like a little lizard, you see, but he could live in fire. And that's what this means. So you can put things in here and broil, or put them in with a medieval creature that would not be consumed by fire. Let me show what you can do with meat. Now, I have in my salamander, my broiler, a surprise for Channing and Jason, old hamburger mouths, both of them. Good lean hamburger that I've ground myself, and I mixed into it. Do you remember the mirepoix I told you to make and put in your refrigerator so that you could use it for spicing and herbing foods during the week, seasoning, you see? Nothing but vegetables and herbs. I mixed that with some hamburger, molded it into cakes, and put it under the salamander. Look at this. There. Now, we're talking serious professional restaurant work. It'll cook very quickly on the outside so that you have a nice, lean, and rare patty on the inside. Absolutely gorgeous food. I would not hesitate to serve this to the most discriminating eater, even though it is very high-class hamburger. And I don't know of another company that has such a thing. I don't know where you're going to find one other than good old KitchenAid. You know, leave it to them. I love it. I just love it. Now, another thing you can do in the way of grinding meat is to make your own Italian sausage, because the stuff you get at the market is simply full of pig fat. You don't need it. I'm using the smaller blade this time on my meat grinder, so I'll get a nice fine sausage. And incidentally, you notice this is a smaller machine. Well, it's only 2 cups smaller. The motor's just about the same size, and it's very powerful, so don't worry about whether or not this can do it. Now, for meat, I'm using a pork butt roast or pork shoulder. You see, it's much leaner, and you can even trim out more fat that way. Cut it into long sticks, and we'll grind it up right away. This is so simple. Feed her on through. There we go. There we are. Now, for seasonings, we can change our recipes easily with sausage. You got all sorts of things you can do. If you want breakfast sausage, then of course you use sage, but I want an Italian sausage. So what I'm going to use is a bit of ground fennel seed. Funicule, the Italians call it. I threw a whole bottle of this in my food processor and ground it up beautifully. There, that's fine. If it's fresh, it's going to taste much better to you. Bottled ground spices are for the birds. I want some red chili flakes. Just a handful. Don't ask me how much. It depends on how much meat you have here. And a couple of bay leaves, maybe 2 or 3 for a couple pounds of meat. Very Italian, you know, the bays. If you've tried to grow your own bay tree, I have one in my yard in Seattle, Tacoma. Wonderful. And let's see, we need some pepper and some salt. The salt will act as a mild preservative. That in the old days, of course, that's what you did with salt, was to preserve meat with it. But we don't need that. Just a tiny bit will be fine. And now, some red wine. Can you believe this? Just throw in some red wine. Gives it a wonderful flavor. And I'm adding olive oil because I have very little fat in this. And it's fat that makes sausage juicy. So I'm using a good vegetable product, olive oil instead, you see. And finally, some of the cheese that we've just grated. Everything's fresh, and you can do all of this in very little time. Now, mix that up. Oh, yes, use your hands. Mix that up, and look at the texture. And I want to compare that with a sausage that I just bought at the supermarket. Let's see what happens. Look at the fat. Look at the fat. You just don't need it. You do not need it. Now, if you want to put the bulk sausage into a casing, then you simply attach a sausage stuffer on your machine. There's nothing to it. But the issue here is, remember, you don't want the fat. Now let me show you some other things that you can do with your food processor. I love these machines. What we have here is an electric knife, that goes back to the old days. There. I'm going to run a cucumber through this because I want nice thin slices. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Are we talking pain? Not at all. As a matter of fact, we're talking very serious beauty. I love these machines because you can cook lickety-split and have a good time at it. That's important. Look, isn't that nice? There's some other blades that come with this. I might as well show them to you now. Remember, we've already used the cheese shredder. You can do a julienne blade lickety-split for carrots or anything else you like. Yes, I always leave the peel on my potatoes, whether I'm making salad or French fries, and there are several different thicknesses in the slicing blade. Now, the other one, the regular working blade, is simply a chopper. And I want to make a quick, well, it's something called poor man's caviar. The kind of thing that you don't have to eat because you're poor, but because it's delicious. I have seeded or pitted some olives. This is a Greek olive, and the other one is a dried Italian. See, it's much smaller. It's a beautiful olive. I've pitted some of those, and we're just going to throw them into the old machine here. Here's, a cup or so of Greek olives. They're very salty, but are they good. And a cup or so of pitted Italian olives. They're very oily and very, very rich. Now, this doesn't look like caviar yet, but wait till you see what's next. Then we're going to add some anchovy. Just throw all this in. That's a can of anchovy packed out in some paper towels so that you don't have a lot of excess oil, right? And some garlic, which we've already chopped up ahead of time, you see, in our machine. How much garlic? Well, good Lord. How about half a tablespoon? That should be plenty. And a little bit of olive oil. Just enough to get this working properly. And we're going to add some fresh cracked pepper. Grind that up. And it's served on toast. When you have a cocktail party, please serve a little bit of dry sherry and a few simple canapes or simple hors d'oeuvres so that people can have a good time without killing themselves with too much food. Let's see what happens. Don't grind this too long now. I'm using the pulse blade. You see, you cannot do this. There, we're done. You cannot do this with a great big food processor because it simply throws things around. This KitchenAid is a middle size. The little bitty one would turn this into mud, and the great big one wouldn't even work. So let me get a cracker and see what we have in terms of, well, it even looks like caviar. Poor man's caviar, you see? It even looks like caviar. Now we'll give it the test. Terrific. Now, by this time, you've come to understand that these machines of our time are really the servants of the old days. They'll do all the drudgery work, and it's a blessing to have one. One of the most difficult jobs that I used to have in a restaurant was trying to make enough salad for enough people in a hurry. In the old days, they used to have a machine that was a cone shredder, and we used to work with it by hand. KitchenAid is simply put one of these together for your mixer, and it works beautifully. Here's the thin blade slicer, or the thin slicer, you see, for vegetables. Lock her into place and simply put it in the old machine here. And I want to make salad for a whole bunch of people. There we go. By salad, I mean I want to slice up a bunch of cucumbers, for instance. So just grab a good cucumber. Let's see, this one looks pretty good. Take off the end, and in we go here. This is fun for me because it beats work, you know? The advantage here is that you can go on and on and on. You don't have to change bowls. Just put it underneath the thing and you can... I once ran 8 cases of zucchini through one of these machines for 800 people for a big church convention in Tacoma. 800 people! And I fed them out of one of these machines. It's a scream. Or try this one. That'll make a good salad. Or try this one. Just slice up a batch of cucumbers and marinate them with a good vinaigrette salad dressing, and that's your salad. Oh, that's good. A lot of vinegar and a little bit of dill, and it'll taste very much like what the kosher cook would call a new pickle. Easy to do, and you can make a bowl this big if you want without any difficulty at all. Now, a dessert that you're not going to believe because you're not going to think that this works. It's an old dessert from colonial times, and you have to whip for a long time. So I'm going to be using a wire whip. This is like a French balloon whip, you see. Simply put it on the mixer and it'll go like crazy for you. I hesitate to tell you to do this with a normal machine because it takes a long time to whip this, and on a KitchenAid, it's very, very simple. The KitchenAid can do this, but not everyone can. So don't be disappointed if yours doesn't come up, but mine will. 2½ cups of whipping cream. We'll get that started right away, and then I'll give you the parts of the recipe that are going to surprise you, because you're not going to think this is going to work. There, get the cream going. 2½ cups of good whipping cream. Now, I'm going to measure out 1 cup of Rhine wine or a good Riesling. There it is. And add to that 1/2 cup of dry sherry. Yes, we're talking colonial cooking. Now, there's a reason behind this dish. It's a dessert, all right, but it's full of alcohol because they didn't have refrigeration. Remember what I said about the refrigerator? Well, here's a dish that really sat around and kind of took care of itself. To my wine now, sherry and Rhine wine, I'm going to add the juice of 1½ lemons and the grated peel of 1½ lemons. You see? Just grate it right off. All right, the juice and the peel of 1½ lemons into the 1½ cups of wine. 1 cup of Rhine wine, ½ cup of dry sherry. Now, the cream will come up. This takes a long time to whip, but it's fun to watch. The cream will come up, and then you add the wine and lemon peel and lemon juice to this, and then add 1/2 pound of powdered sugar. There we go. And let this go. It's going to take about 10 minutes before you'll have something that I'll show you in a second here. Come on, powdered sugar, get in there. There. You'll have some stuff all over your kitchen if you don't have a shield on this. That's why I'm particularly fond of this machine, because you can do French breads or anything with it and not get flour all over the place, unless, of course, you're a slob like I am. But it doesn't throw it out of the bowl. Just spill it on the counter. That's me. There you go. Let this whip now for about 10 minutes, and it will set up. Let me show you what happens. It's really very exciting because it's an interesting lesson for your children in old desserts. This goes back to colonial times. You can still see them making this in the kitchens in Colonial Williamsburg. This is called a syllabub. Now, why is it called a syllabub? Because, well, let me show you here. I've got a whole tray of these ready. Because after about 24 hours, the cream and wine separate. And you remember the term syllable has something to do with various parts in a word. Well, look at this. It makes a colossal dessert, and it's wonderfully easy to do, providing you have good equipment and a good machine. There. Now, what we've tried to talk about today, really simple enough. First of all, get yourself organized. Try and plan on cooking 1 day a week seriously so that you can enjoy yourself. Secondly, set up your kitchen in such a way that you have stations for everyone in the family to cook, or your friends. So you can have dinner parties in which you prepare together. Thirdly, please remember that the purchasing of cheap cooking equipment always remains the same. It was cheap when you bought it. It's going to be cheap when you throw it away. Buy quality so that you can relax and have a good time. I'm particularly fond of the friends I've told you about today. KitchenAid's been in business since 1919, and they've always proven themselves to me. I know it's quality, and I know it's going to last. So in the long run, it's a frugal investment. Now, what's going to happen in the future? I really don't know. We do know that kitchens in the future are going to be using temperatures of cold for cooking as well as temperatures of heat. Isn't that fascinating? We know that there'll be new processes for preserving foods, lettuce that you won't even refrigerate. And we know that we're probably going to decentralize the kitchen, and you're going to have nooks and crannies all over your house for cooking. All sorts of things are going to go on. I don't know. Maybe you're going to have one of these in several different rooms. In any case, I want you to enjoy yourself, eat good food, and please cook from scratch as often as possible, and do it in joyful surroundings so that you can have a good time. You're really worth that. Until I see you again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.